You want to take a look at you've already seen the question.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have needed to see the questions.
Okay.
So this is like, what was that TV show? This Is Your Wife?
Yeah.
We're rolling.
Okay. So, what did you think the first time you heard Bo sing?
Actually, I didn't realize what I thought the first time I heard Bo sing until I got home and played the tape that I'd made. Then I had to go ask people who that voice was. The night that it was a White Eagles practice downtown, and it was a real raucous practice. And I guess it was about 1968, I would guess. And I was recording it on my little reel-to-reel. And there was so much going on, I don't think I realized at the time. I went home and I listened to the tape, and there's one incredible voice, this beautiful voice just sung out in the middle. And so I immediately started going back and asking people, who is that, who is that? And they said, that's Bo Dollis, chief of the Wild Magnolias.
And can you briefly sum up the story of how the idea for recording Bo in a funk band type format came about?
Yeah. Well, it came from two different directions. I was working, well, let me think about how to answer this. I was spending a lot of time with the Mardi Gras Indians in these late 60s, not professionally, not doing shows. So I was just spending time with them. At the same time, I was working with the musician Willie T, and I was doing various projects with him. I was at Tulane University, and I'd formed some little organization called Get It Together, and we were putting on a Saturday night program. On that program, I got Bo Dollis and a bunch of the Indians to come and jam, and I put Willie T on with his band, separate. And Willie T was first, and he played, and then Bo got up there, and they started jamming, and Willie heard it, and that was what we call the moment, because Willie T got up and sat down at the piano and just started. I mean, Willie T was one of these great New Orleans musicians that had no separation between jazz, blues, rhythm and blues, and funk. And he just came up with a form of music that put all that stuff together that went with Mardi Gras Indian music. And I had my little tape recorder running. So, once again, we went back and listened to it. It was like this whole new form of music. And so I talked to Willie about it and talked to Bo about it and decided to try and record it. And actually started a record company. It's called Crescent City Records. We only made that one record, Crescent City 25, and put a rhythm section together that was Zigaboo from the Meters on drums and George French on bass and Willie on piano. And at that point, I'd really gotten the Wild Magnolias group came together and was comprised of Bo and Monk because we started rehearsing songs. We started doing songs outside of Indian practice. And so the first thing was we just went up to the recording studio in Baton Rouge and cut Honda Wanda. And Honda Wanda was a new Indian song that Bo made up when he was working for Magnolia Liquor. And he was riding the Magnolia Liquor truck, and he made up Honda Wanda.
And so, if you could sum up how you think Bo fits into the history of New Orleans music, how would you sum that up?
Well, I think it almost goes beyond New Orleans music. I think he's got a place in the history of New Orleans culture, because the Mardi Gras Indian tradition, which is one of the bedrocks of not only New Orleans culture and roots of New Orleans music, but roots of American and African American culture, was very invisible. It was invisible to the outside world, to the white world, even within the black community coming out of the 50s. It wasn't very mainstream. And my main reason for wanting to record this music was to get it on the jukebox in the community. Because what would happen in Indian practice is you'd have a jukebox playing, and it would play like real songs. Then somebody would come and unplug it. Then the Indians would practice. Then when they get through, you'd plug the jukebox back in. And I wanted to bridge that gap and get Mardi Gras Indian music onto that jukebox. And so we made Honda Wanda, which was the first ever, modern, and it happened, and it worked, and it became a Mardi Gras Indian song. So Bo Dollis and the Wild Magnolia Mardi Gras Indian Band, which is what we called it, they became a vanguard for advancing this just priceless African American culture in every direction, for advancing it in the black community as something to be honored and respected and revered and cheered, so to speak, and to bring it to the greater community, to the white community, and to the world. So Bo, as the lead singer of the first group of Mardi Gras Indians, really to be seen, like that, was really, he was the one. He led the way, and Mardi Gras Indian now culture and Mardi Gras Indian music and the whole beat has become, just even in the last couple of years, I talked to Monk about how far it's come. Now it's really WWL as Mardi Gras Indians in their TV spot. I mean, it's become synonymous. It's on the cover of magazines. And, for us to look back to 1969, I read in the Offbeat they talked about when Bo and Monk paraded to the first Jazz and Heritage Festival. And when I went to them to convince them to do this, and it was actually the first time Mardi Gras Indians, never mind walking down Canal Street and into the French Quarter, but the two traditional times they come out, which is Mardi Gras morning and St. Joseph night, there was no Super Sundays. That was the first time ever that Mardi Gras Indians came out, other than those two times. Well, I'll never forget standing on Canal Street with the buses going by, thinking maybe this is nuts. But that took a trust and a dialogue for a while for me to convince them to do that. But there again, here was Bo and Monk, but making a historic moment. Breaking through barriers. He's breaking through barriers for the Mardi Gras Indian culture, and really by doing that, broadening the birthright and the gift of all New Orleans culture.
And can you recall any specific anecdotes that stand out in your mind, like memories that are really great for you as regards Bo?
That
one always stumps everybody.
20,
because there's so many.
Yeah, there's 20 years of those. Well, that first one going to Jazz Fest stands out. The rehearsals that we had stand out. My first great memories of Bo were before any of this, when I was following him as my chief, and I would spend all night the night before Mardi Gras at his house, running to K&B to get glue, and running to K&B to get 3 different sizes of safety pins, and putting the suit together the night before, and then that moment, that he would emerge out of the house onto Jackson and come out Mardi Gras morning. That's the greatest, greatest moment that there is, really. No, it's just,
that was great. That was great. And so, do you have anything that you would like to say to Bo or add to our conversation?
Well, I'd just like to say to Bo that, it's just a blessing that his great gift has reached the world, and give him all the credit that he deserves for having worked as hard as he can, never having given up, and continuing to do it, and still being here today. I mean, it's something that both Bo and Monk have done this since we first started in 1969. And there's so many ups and downs and ins and outs, and it's, a hard thing to do. So I think it's a tremendous accomplishment, not only bringing this music to the world, but the longevity of his career. And just congratulations, and it's been a great trip.
Great. Thank you very much.
What a long, strange trip it's been.